Hello everyone, welcome to Programming in C++ with me, Juhi Kaneria. Today we will be beginning with our first unit, Principles of Object-Oriented Programming. By the end of this session, you will be able to differentiate procedure and object-oriented programming language and also explain basic concepts of C++. Procedure-oriented programming. We have learned C language in previous semesters, wherein we have seen that a program is divided into many functions. You can see in this figure, a main program is divided into function 1, 2 and function 3. And again, these functions are divided into sub-functions. This type of approach where the program are organized in the form of subroutines and all the data items are global is called procedure-oriented programming language. Or in other words, a problem is viewed as sequence of things that are to be done, say reading, calculating, printing, etc. Procedure-oriented programming is also known as function-oriented programming language, where list of instructions are written in sequence for a specific goal. We normally use flowcharts or algorithms to organize this sequential actions, and we have done the same thing in C language. Thus, we can say that POP is a linear top-down approach where importance is given on functions rather than on data. Examples of procedure-oriented programming languages are COBOL, Fortran and C. Here are some of the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming. Emphasis is given on doing the things, that is on functions. Programs are broken down into functions. Global data are shared by most of the functions. Data mobility is quite open between the functions. Functions transform data from one form to another. Linear top-down approach is followed. There are certain drawbacks of procedure-oriented programming. The first is since the global data are shared between different functions, if we change or revise any data structure, we also need to revise all the functions that access that data. This may lead to major bugs if not done properly. Another problem with this is real-world problems cannot be modeled very well because functions are action-oriented and do not really correspond to elements of the problem. So, in order to overcome these drawbacks, object-oriented programming paradigm came into existence. Object-oriented paradigm, as the name suggests, main focus over here is given on objects. Object-oriented programming treats data as the critical element in program development. As shown in the figure, the programs are divided into objects and then each object has data and function associated with it. Design and development of the program is done using modular approach. OOP does not allow data to flow freely around the system as it was the case in POP. It binds or ties the data more closely to the functions that operate on it and thus protects it from accidental modification from the outside functions. In OOP, data of an object can be accessed only by the function associated with it, while function of one object can access the function of other objects. This is shown in the figure that two objects can communicate via functions, but a function can access the data associated with that particular object only. Examples of OOP are C++, Java, etc. Here are some of the main features of object-oriented programming. Emphasis is given to data and not on the procedures. Programs are divided into objects. Data structures are designed in such a way that they characterize the objects. Functions can operate on the data of the objects to which it belongs. Data is hidden and cannot be accessed by external functions. Objects may communicate with each other via functions. New data and functions can be added as and when required. Thus, we can say that object-oriented programming follows bottom-up approach. Basic concepts of object-oriented programming are classes, objects, data abstraction and encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, dynamic binding, and message passing. We will see each of these concepts in detail in our further slides. Objects. Objects are collection of data members and member functions. As you can see here in the figure, we have object called student. It has data members or variables like enrollment number, name, date of birth, marks, and member functions like total, average, display, etc. Object is very vast concept and we will see this in detail in our upcoming sessions. For now, we can view objects as the instance of class. Programming objects has to be chosen in such a way that they closely represent the real world objects, say like person, place, bank account, etc. Each object has unique name and it occupies a space in the memory. Classes. Classes can be viewed as user-defined data types which behave just like the built-in types of programming language. Set of data and function of an object are made user-defined data type with the help of class. As I said earlier, objects are the instance of type class. Example, integer a. It means a is a variable of type int, that is integer. In the same way, if we write fruits mango, wherein fruits is a class, then it means mango is an object of class fruits. Thus, class is a collection of objects of similar type. In class, data and functions are wrapped as single unit. This type of wrapping is called encapsulation. The data is not accessible to outside world and those functions which are wrapped in the class can access it. This type of insulation of data from direct access by the program is called data hiding or information hiding or data abstraction. Data abstraction means showing only the essential features without including the background or implementation details. Inheritance. Inheritance is a process by which objects of one class acquire the properties of objects of another class. It is an hierarchical classification. As shown in the figure, the robin bird acquires certain attributes of the flying bird, which again has certain attributes of the class birds. The real world example of this is I might have certain attributes of my own and some attributes I have inherited from my parents. Thus, inheritance provides reusability. That is, we can add additional features to the existing class without modifying it. It is possible by deriving new class from the existing one. The new class will have combined features of both the classes. Existing class here is known as base class or superclass, while the new class is called derived class or the subclass. Polymorphism. Polymorphism is derived from Greek word where poly means many and morphism means forms. Thus, polymorphism means ability to have more than one form. An operation may exhibit different behavior in different instances. Behavior depends on the type of data and the operations used. For example, addition operation. For two numbers, it will return sum. while for two strings it will return a third string by concatenation. Thus, polymorphism is much used in implementing inheritance. Dynamic binding. Binding means linking of procedure call to the code to be executed in response to the call. Code associated with procedure call is not known until the runtime. As in our previous example, whether addition will return sum or concatenation is not known until the runtime. Same way, consider the procedure draw. Every object like triangle, circle, square, etc. will have this procedure. Its algorithm is unique to each object, and so the draw procedure will be redefined in each class that defines the object. At runtime, the code matching the object under current reference will be called. Message passing. An object-oriented program consists of a set of objects that communicate with each other. Process of programming in OOP consists of following steps: creating classes that define object and their behavior, creating objects from class definition, establishing communication among objects, and so on. Objects communicate with one another by sending and receiving information much the same way as people pass message to one another. That's it for today. Thank you and see you in the next session.